Wait till he tells you he's ready.
Again, if you could follow along on your, this one begins with a historic Chandler Mill Bridge. This one says historic Chandler Mill Bridge. There's more houses up here, I believe.
Open up the presentation. Nick Ferenchak, F-E-R-E-N-C-H-A-K. Yep. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nick Ferenchak. I have my engineering background from Lafayette College, and I'm currently at Westchester University in the planning program. And I'm specifically focusing in on transportation planning. So I've been following along with Chandler Mill Bridge situation for a while. I thought this would be some good opportunity to do some research and show my findings. Oh, and with the engineering, I'd like to say I'm not a bridge engineer either. So, and also the handout is going to be more accurate if you follow along in this. This is just a shell presentation up here. Okay, so on the agenda tonight, I'm just going to go over a brief history, look at a traffic study, actually two different traffic studies, look at the residents' opinions from the feasibility report and another survey that was run, look at different options and the costs associated with those options, and just a real brief conclusion. Okay, so a history of the Chandler Mill Bridge. Back in 2006, there were 112 community members that signed a petition to rehabilitate the bridge. Then in 2008, the township supported a one-lane option. In 2010, the bridge was inducted into the National Register of Historic Places. May of 2011, as everyone knows, the bridge was closed. Then in June, the county agreed to rehab the bridge if the township would take it back. And then in September of 2011, Kennett Township adopted a policy of rehabilitation first. Okay, and then also back in 2004 in the comprehensive plan, Chandler Mill Road was noted as a scenic road, and it was noted in 1993 comprehensive plan. I believe it was the 2002 comprehensive plan also. The road was also listed on the visually significant resources map of the township. It was also included on the County Planning Commission's recommended bikeway network, and it was also included on the National Scenic Byway designation. So numerous times over the past decade, the importance of the bridge has been evidenced not only to the community but also historically. Okay, so I ran a little traffic study. According to the data provided by the Safety Council, I looked at accident data from January of 2009 up until December of 2013, and with the bridge being closed in May of 2011, that gave me a good before and after picture. I found that on Chandler Mill Road itself, accidents went down 24.3%, which would be expected. I found on Hillendale Road, west of Kaolin, accidents actually went down 46%, which was unexpected. And then on Kaolin Road, accidents went up, but only by 9.41%. So overall, we saw a decrease in accidents. It seems that the closing of the bridge has calmed traffic in the area and made it safer. The other traffic study that we cited on the next slide was by Gilmore and Associates from back in 2007. They noted that there were no incidents related to bridge width. The bridge did not cause delays, and the average speed was about 13 miles per hour on the bridge. So now on to community opinions. I first looked at the feasibility report, which was posted online. I read through all the comments, and I tried to organize them into different groups. I came up with 44% were for pedestrian only, 26.7% were for either pedestrian or one lane, just as long as it wasn't two lane. 9.3% were for one lane specifically. 5.3% were for the bridge to be reopened to two-way traffic. I didn't see anyone calling for specifically a two-lane option. And then there were also 14.7% that wanted more information or were asking questions. So of the 64 comments that voiced a clear opinion, 93.8% wanted to see the bridge preserved, and only 6.2% were open to demolition. The next slide is another survey that was administered by the Land Conservancy. We actually got another response today after we went to print. So there's 55 responses now. The percentages are at 58.1% for pedestrian only, 40% for leaving the bridge as one lane, and it's 1.8% for demolishing the bridge and replacing it with a two lane. And then on the bottom there we just have some comments that were kind of general, representative of all the comments we got. And the important part about that is if you look back at the last survey, you can see that both show that pedestrian is on top, one lane follows that, and then two lane for both surveys have very little support. The next slide just shows pictures of existing bridges within the township that the township owns, and kind of juxtaposition with the picture of the Chandler Mill Bridge. You can see the pictures of the township-owned bridges. They're just kind of blacktop, no character. And you can see the Chandler Mill Bridge with a lot of character there. You can also see why the township might be hesitant to take the bridge back because it's so unique. So now on to some options and the costs associated with those options. I went by the Lichtenstein report, which was from 2007, so we had to update those numbers to be in today's dollars. So we used some different growth factors, and we worked with 4%, which was on the higher end because we didn't want to underestimate. So first, the one-lane option, according to the Lichtenstein report, they said that it would be about $290,000 to rehabilitate as a one-lane. Adjusting that to today's dollars, that would be about $366,000. Maintenance of the bridge over 50 years would be about $260,000 or $5,200 annually. The pedestrian bridge, the estimate for conversion was about $50,000. A dry hydrant would also need to be installed if it was converted to a pedestrian bridge, and that was estimated about $1,000. And then you can also see the maintenance costs there, which would come to about $1,600 annually. And then the two-lane replacement, which I just pulled late last week from DVRPC, the Transportation Improvement Program. You can see the table right there, copy and pasted right from their website. They estimated at about $2 million, a little over $2 million. And the phases are construction, final design, preliminary engineering, and right-of-way, in case you're wondering. And the funds come from different areas. So the next slide, I just laid out the costs very simply. Pedestrian only is by far the cheapest. It's also cheapest annually, cheapest up front. One-lane renovation was much cheaper up front, but it's going to cost a little more for annual maintenance. And the two-lane replacement was by far the most expensive, but you're going to save some money on annual maintenance. So it's a give and take. Okay, and then we have the insurance slide, which I feel like we've already gone over pretty thoroughly, so I'll go right to the replacement cost, the next slide. And this is something I looked into last week. This was really interesting. I thought I contacted ET Tectonics out of Philadelphia, and they make fiberglass pedestrian bridges. They have these things all over the country, and you can see a picture of one of them there. We gave them the measurements for Chandler Mill Bridge Road, and they provided us with an estimate, and it would be about $34,000 to replace with a completely new pedestrian bridge in the event it would ever need to be replaced. So it's extremely cheap. I just thought that was pretty interesting. Okay, so now on to some different funding options. We saw what the costs were and now kind of where the money can come from. As of 2013, 9.3% of the township's budget is used on bridges and roadways, and only $5,000 is actually used on bridge repair and maintenance. That $5,000 is 0.15%, so I mean we're talking about 1/10 of 1%. And that goes towards all 6 bridges that the township owns. So from a maintenance standpoint, taking back one more bridge might boost it up to 0.25% of the budget, and 0.2 of 1%. So from a maintenance standpoint, it's very minimal. The next slide are different DVRPC programs that can fund the bridge, and these are for both if it would be rehabilitated as 1 lane and if it would be converted to a pedestrian bridge. And I'm not going to go through each one, but there's a good amount of money. They actually have a very good website if you want to go on there and Google it. They have all the different programs that they've funded in the past, and there's some that are definitely applicable to Chandler Mill. Okay, and finally the next slide is the state funding from PennDOT. Liquid Fuels Fund provides Kennett Township with about $204,000 annually, and if the bridge would be reopened to vehicular traffic, that money would be able to be applied to Chandler Mill Bridge. So in conclusion, there's been a historical precedent set for the significance of the bridge. With the issue currently back on the table, as we saw with the public comments, residents have shown that the bridge is important to them, and with many different funding options, it should be a feasible and fiscally responsible option. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Nick?
I have a question for Nick. Nick, can you go back and address on each of these, it says, there's a slogan, the Chandler Mill Bridge, an alternative to the fiscally irresponsible bridge to nowhere. What did you mean by that?
I believe it was a reference to Sarah Palin's bridge in Alaska. No, it was just looking at the different funding options, how much they cost, and where that money can come from.
There's a slide that you had on the insurance. Can you go back to that? There. That's where Chandler Mill Road ends. So that's why I think you were talking about a bridge to nowhere. It ends at the Mushroom House. That's Chandler Mill Road. Behind it's the railroad tracks. So I think that's the idea.
Are there any other questions for Nick? Yes.
Chris Burkett again, about cost. Heard your presentation, $51,000, I think is what you say, for a pedestrian bridge.
Yes.
And you got that from a fabricator?
That was from Ron Donati, our engineer, and also from a Liechtenstein report.
So did somebody provide you with a written estimate for that? Or they quoted you something over the phone? And was it based on drawings? Were you replacing the abutments? What exactly was in $51,000?
It was actually just provided to me from the engineer. When
Ron and I pulled those from the Liechtenstein report and his own, there's a copy for you, and his own estimates that he had done with comps.
And like I said, that was from 2007, so we tried to adjust it to today's dollars by using the growth factors.
Well, if the bridge is so inexpensive to buy and maintain, I mean, why wouldn't the land price enter into the deal and not look to the township for ownership? I mean, it sounds like such a sweet deal, how come you guys are passing on it?
Yeah, I'm just doing a little bit of work for the land conservancy. I'm not that involved. I was just looking at the numbers. When did you?
There are discussions about this, that we do historic synergy of land and history, and this Carter is it's a microcosm of our work. It's basically trails, open space, nature preserve, historic, with the Bucktoe Cemetery there as well. We are looking into it. We are a very small nonprofit, so even just what we'd have to raise a certain endowment in order to, say, maybe $2,000 a year to maintain it. So that's something, and I thank you for bringing that question up.
In the back. Name?
It's me again. Guy. In your report, you said that I think the township spends roughly $300,000 annually to maintain their current bridges and roads.
$5,000 annually for a bridge repair and maintenance.
Bridge repair.
Yeah.
9.3% of expenditures are now on bridges and roadways. So can I assume that the rest of it is on roads? Close to $300,000 a year?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Do we have any idea how much we spent historically to maintain Chandler Mill Road?
Good question.
Okay. Just a question.
We have to look into that.
It's a county bridge. Did you spend anything?
He asked about the road.
The roadway?
Yeah, I'm Bill Sheldon, S-H-E-L-T-O-N. I'm a township resident, but I live far away from the bridge. But I have a question also about the expenditures that are being forwarded for maintenance and repair. You're saying that $5,000 is spent annually for bridge repairs. That's from the budget that you have copies out in the back. On the next page, though, it says, where do I have this here? Next page, wages of the supervisor, the road crew, and so on. The expenses of the road crew, which is the labor to do the maintenance, is $257,500 from your handout back here. The road crew snow overtime, that's not the issue, $20,000 by itself, etc. So I think when you're saying $5,000, it comes from the budget on the same place where we have stone listed for $15,000, blacktop listed for $20,000. I'm going to guess that this $5,000 is a direct charge only to someone for doing work, but not part of the cost of the road crew of doing work, which is $257,500.
To tell you the truth,
That's the road crew.
Yeah,
what I'm trying to say is $5,000 is, shall we say, small compared to $257,500.
To tell you the truth, I did not factor that in. But I think the most accurate way to factor that would be to see how much time they spend repairing bridges and then multiplying that percentage by 250,000, and I think it would come out to a small number, but yeah, I can't be sure.
And again, I'm not an expert in bridge painting, but I have painted steel over my life, I have painted houses over my life, and this is an old bridge, and I'm going to guess that it has lead-based paint on it, and it's over a waterway. And looking at all the pictures of the bridge and all the damage, you would have to do chipping, sandblasting, priming, and painting. And on your handout page it says spot clean and paint, $1,200.
That's after it's already been rehabbed.
Yeah,
That's not as
You'd have to scaffold underneath the bridge, you'd have to tent underneath the bridge
That's taken into
for
consideration.
$50,000.
That's taken into consideration.
I would love to have you folks paint my house. Because if I could get it done without lead paint for $1,200, I would love it. So, quite frankly, I think your numbers for what it would cost that all the township residents is a little bit low, and I think you're misusing the budget data that exists for what the true cost is of the road crew to maintain the roads and bridges.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't factor in the, salaries, yeah.
I think we have a question in the back here.
Susan Hughes, Hughes. I wanted to know, do you know what the traffic impact has been on Round Hill Road since the bridge closed?
I did not look at Round Hill Road, no, I'm sorry.
I think
We do have the raw data, though. I think it was the Safety Council provided, but yeah, I haven't looked at that specifically.
Again, it goes back to finding out if there's school bus routes that actually run through Round Hill, because children change grades and different things happen with school buses, and also looking at the number of already people that live there that are coming through. It's not outside traffic.
Oh, yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is.
Albert's
Don't give us that.
Excuse me.
Oh, yes.
In this report, am I correct then, you're assuming that the accident rates went down in that area because the bridge is closed?
I didn't assume that. I just looked at the data. I have the numbers there. I'm not trying to prove causality or anything. I'm just looking at the data.
Are you aware of the township's overall rate, up or down, in the last 5 years?
That was provided. I forget what it is off the top of my head.
I'm just curious.
But
That's fine.
yeah, we originally looked at specifically Chandler Mill Road, and as you would expect, of course it went down. So that's why we did look at the surrounding roads also. So.
Okay, but you're not aware that the township has not been an aggressive program to reduce accidents? It has, and there are a number of things done in that area by the township that reduce accidents. You're not aware of that? You didn't look at that number.
I looked at. I remember in 2008 it dipped down. I remember associating that with the economy, and then it started climbing up eventually. But yeah, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head.
It's a good team to look at the before, the 1 year before, and a year after. So taking into consideration those improvements that were done on Kale and back in whatever, I think it was 2008. So yes, this was all taken into consideration. And the safety, it came from the safety committee members.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Nick? Yes.
Yes, you're referring to the budget that Kennett has currently for maintaining the six bridges, is that correct, that Kennett currently has?
Yes.
They are very different in looking at the pictures that you're showing here. So maintenance on that type of a bridge would be probably substantially less than on this bridge.
Mm-hmm.
As this man said, the painting, and the $1,200, by the way, for the painting was a 3-year estimate, not a 1-year estimate. I just finished painting a mudroom, and I spent probably $60 or $80 on paint for my little mudroom. I'd like to know where you can get a whole bridge painted for $400.
Our engineer was supposed to be here tonight, so those are his numbers, and I understand. Okay.
So
And
to say it's going to go over a minuscule 1/10 of a 1% or something, you can't just throw a number out like that. You're making up numbers as you go along. That's not fair to the people that are here and listening to you.
Okay. Well, we did have the $5,000 for the 2013 fiscal year that is currently being spent on the 6 bridges. Yes, for the simple, very cheap, no paint bridges.
And some of them go over a little span that I could probably jump over at
I'm sorry.
5 or 2.
Yes.
I'm not hearing you real good. You,
Take our time here.
St.
go
Clair.
ahead. You're right,
Right.
right, okay, good, thanks.
All right. Unless there are more.
Sorry.
You didn't finish, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So that was $5,000 for those 6 bridges. According to the Liechtenstein report, which I know it's from 2007, we tried to update it. It's the most accurate we have. It was, they estimated it at $260,000 for the 50 years, and that came to $5,200 annually. So $5,000 for the 6 bridges we now own. It would more than double. You'd add it on another $5,200. It would be about $10,000 a year for bridge maintenance, according to the Liechtenstein report. So you are correct. It's $5,000 for 6 bridges. Chandler Mill itself would be $5,200. So it would double, and that would bring it up to it's 0.15% of the budget now. Doubling that would bring it up to 0.3%.
That's if your numbers are correct. in terms of the maintenance?
That's, if the Lichtenstein report is correct, then, like I said, they're an engineering firm. I am not a bridge engineer. I'm not here to debate whether the engineering firm is correct or
I
not.
wanted to clarify the
Okay.
I just like to say I'm not making up numbers.
Budget
Hang on a
from-
second. Hang on a second, Ray. Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify something on the budget number, and Roger, maybe you can chime in. We put in a figure if there is to be a repair. We don't know what will come up with a bridge. So this year, we haven't had any repairs, we don't have any plan. But if something comes up, then we have to spend it. And for one bridge, it could be $5,000. We don't know until an issue arises.
Okay, unless there's another question for Nick, that's the last of our presentations, so I'd like to go, we have various statements that need to be made, and we're starting to get pressed on our time. So I'd like to move on. Thank you very much, Nick. Ray, do you want to give your presentation, or do you want your statement, or do you want us to read it?
I'll read it, it's fine, I can read it, it's not very long, it's the email that I sent to supervisors, and hopefully I can talk loud enough so everybody will hear me.
Good. Why don't you, Ray, come up here, please.
Okay.
This isn't going to be professional. I didn't practice. I'm just here to read the email that I sent to the 3 supervisors after the February 7th meeting. First, however, I would like to say that I have no problem with a lot of what's been said here. Bike trails and walking trails are lovely. I would love it. Sold my bike after I moved here 16 years ago because I didn't feel like there really was a good option for biking. But I don't want an either-or situation. I don't understand why we can't have both. Why that bridge can't be rehabbed so that there's space for the bikes and walkers and there's space for the traffic. Basically, my letter said, I attended the meeting regarding the Chandler Mill Bridge on February 7th. I noted a large number of people present were not Kennett residents. I'm not a member of SAVE, the Land Conservancy, or the Bridge Consortium. I'm just a resident who lives on Round Hill Road who would love to see the bridge reopened for vehicle traffic as soon as possible. This has dragged out for so many years now, causing so many residents and visitors much inconvenience. I suspect, having spoken with several of the people involved in this Bridge Consortium, SAVE and the Land Conservancy, that the true agenda was never to have the bridge rehabbed and saved for history, but it was to permanently close it so it could be converted into part of a bike and walking trail. The only people that will really benefit are those who own property along Chandler Mill Road. They have less traffic and they will have less traffic and increased property values. Those of us who are living on Round Hill Road, Hilltop, and in the Falcon Layers development get to deal with the increased traffic. We have seen an increase in traffic on Round Hill Road since the bridge closed. Apparently some people think that Round Hill is a shortcut. Shortcut meaning that they can go as fast as possible down the middle of the road. I have literally had to pull off onto neighbors' lawns to get out of the way because people go sailing through. If these organizations truly believe the bridge should be cobbled and patched back together to preserve it for its historic integrity, then I believe it must be reopened to two-way vehicle traffic, the purpose for which it was designed 103 years ago. That way it will remain true to its historic purpose. This was a farm-to-market road with a bridge that took you across the creek. The bridge was never meant to serve only for recreation. It was built to carry vehicles across the street. I think PennDOT and the county have been more than fair in the concessions that they were willing to make for the bridge. Keeping the design as similar as possible, even though I don't think it's a particularly attractive bridge, but that's beside the point. Rock walls are nice, though. Adding space for bikes and pedestrians, keeping it as small as possible while still fulfilling the mandates that go with federal funding. I really don't see how there should be objections with these type of concessions. Except, as I stated, I think the true desire from the beginning was to get the bridge closed to vehicle traffic permanently. As for the argument that a two-lane bridge would increase traffic on Chandler Mill Road, it makes no sense. I seriously doubt anybody is going to go, oh, yahoo, there's a two-lane bridge on Chandler Mill, let's go take a ride. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And as for increased speeds because of a two-lane bridge, again, you have to make a very sharp turn. Either way you come to get on that bridge, you have to pretty much make a right turn to get on that bridge. So you have to slow down to do that, folks. If you're not, talk to the officers in the back there. I don't think Kennett Township should be taking on the idea of taking ownership of the bridge from the county either. I think the last thing this township needs is additional expenses and liabilities. This is a totally unknown entity, and you don't know ultimately what it's going to cost. I do not believe that preservation organizations that have stalled this project for so many years speak for the majority of Kennett residents. They just speak the loudest. These people who have used the bridge daily for commuting, the first responders, businesses who have work, and customers in the area want to see the bridge reopened as quickly as possible. We've all been inconvenienced for too long. That was my email.
Paige, you were on the list for making a statement as well. Did you?
Yeah, she went out to the table to get it.
So she's going to make a statement?
She has
Well,
statements, but...
while we're waiting for her, how about Ed West?
Here. Ed West, Chandler Mill Road resident, so I'm one of the 1% that benefits from the reduced traffic. Okay. As such, my wife is out of town, otherwise she would be here as well. But as such, we both favor a preservation of the bridge as a historic structure. And in that context, if the debate is limited to whether or not we preserve the bridge as a historic structure, it kind of comes down to two choices. It's either preserved historically and remains a pedestrian bridge, or it is preserved keeping a historical form factor and footprint and remains basically a single lane bridge with the 16-foot deck. Our personal preference, given the reduced traffic, we would love to see it remain closed to vehicular traffic. However, as many of you pointed out, that creates problems elsewhere for our other neighborhoods and citizens in the township. But again, somewhat self-serving, but I would prefer it remain closed. Thanks.
Thank you. John Wilkins.
Okay. I'm John Wilkins. I'm speaking for myself and my wife Lucy. We are both Section 106 parties. We live at 138 Round Hill Road, which is at the intersection of Round Hill Road and Chandler Mill Road. I'm going to read the statement which we officially submitted to the 106 process on February 26th, or 25th. The Chandler Mill Bridge deserves special attention as it is a National Historical Site in an area that is a natural environmental gem in Kennett Township. We attended the meeting on February 7th and were disappointed to hear how limited the possibilities considered regarding what could be done to update or maintain the bridge were. We strongly favor rehabbing the bridge to a pedestrian and bicycle-only passage, with the second choice being to rehab the bridge to its current single-lane configuration and the original weight limit of 12 tons. Neither of these possibilities was presented at that other meeting. We live very close to the bridge on Chandler Mill Road, actually 3 houses up from the bridge, and we see it from our yard. And since the bridge has been closed, we've noticed a very positive effect on people's enjoyment of the beautiful Red Clay Creek area. We've seen a greatly increased pedestrian and bicycle activity, including families with children walking and jogging along the road. Further, the Conservation Preserve with its trails along the creek is a welcome area to hikers. It provides a natural habitat where varied and unusual wildlife have been seen. Choosing to keep the bridge small would maintain this natural and beautiful area. Because of these favorable effects, we believe it is quite realistic to designate the bridge as a pedestrian and bicycle-only passage. People have moved to Kennett Township and the area around the Red Clay Creek because of its rural beauty and the opportunity to commune with nature. Diligent conservation is essential for its preservation. The contribution of millions of dollars already spent to advance the greenway that Chandler Mill Bridge anchors is evidence of strong citizenry support. As a second choice, the idea of rehabbing the bridge to its original condition with a 12-ton weight limit should be considered. This could maintain its historic integrity while saving taxpayers money. It would also keep the traffic limited, with the flow slow and deliberate. Now, over the past 30 years, when we have lived inside of the bridge, there have been no accidents with this original configuration, and in fact, it brings about driving courtesies which are rarely encountered today. We believe it could serve current and projected needs for local vehicular traffic along Chandler Mill Road and provide for safe traffic flow as well. We do not see a need to build a large modern bridge, either to allow for increased speed movement in this area or to provide a structure for large trucks to go over. This would destroy the peaceful nature of Chandler Mill Road as it currently winds along the Red Clay Creek, something the local people enjoy greatly. Further, living at the intersection of Round Hill Road and Chandler Mill Road, we see only a slight increase in the traffic going up Round Hill Road, and we are sensitive to that at our corner. Although funding seems to be prominent in the minds of the county with the definite need for government funding, no mention was made of the possible government funding for rehabbing the bridge to its original specs of 12-ton limits. Only the 30-ton limit was discussed then. Since the bridge is on the National Registry of Historic Sites, it would seem reasonable that the government would provide funding for maintaining it in its original configuration. Also, if funding is the real reason for the county's focus, we believe that other sources of funding might be available and should be sought. In summary, we favor restricting the bridge permanently to the pedestrian or bicycle passage, or at most rehabbing the bridge to its current single-lane configuration. We thank you for considering these possibilities.
Sandy Mills.
I have to say, first of all, to my friend Ray Ann St. Clair, never ever, my husband was very instrumental in trying to save this bridge. Our idea was always to restore the bridge, never to close the bridge. So I just want to straighten that out. That was never our intent. My name is Sandy Mills, and I live right by the bridge. I'm here as a messenger. I have 2 letters to read because this was a difficult time for a meeting with Passover and Kennett Township schools having their vacation. So my next door neighbors are away, the Joneses. They live right by the bridge as well. And so Hillary forwarded me to read. So I'm the messenger. Don't shoot the messenger. Just let me read the letters. I ask that you take back ownership of the Chandler Mill Bridge and support a rehabilitation for pedestrian bike traffic only. This is the only fiscally responsible option. Does it make any common sense to spend close to $2 million on a 2-lane bridge that the community doesn't need or want? The community has overwhelmingly asked for a pedestrian-only option once the residents were made aware of the enormous savings this would create. Additionally, the majority of the residents who are most directly impacted by the bridge being closed are delighted to have the road closed. Many families, bikers, dog owners, bird watchers, and children are enjoying the opportunities made possible with a safe, calm road and access to fantastic open space, walking trails, and general good, clean fun. With the bridge closed, people driving well over the speed limit and trucks using the road as a cut-through has been eliminated. The world continues to change at a fast and furious pace. The PennDOT solution of a new two-lane bridge will ultimately require the widening of this small country road at the expense of the same taxpayers, including myself, that have consistently told the township that they do not want a two-lane replacement bridge. Your residents have overwhelmingly asked for a rehab of existing and/or recently a pedestrian option. Why is it taking so long to have our leaders support the residents? Additionally, is the March 25th date a good date to meet? This is spring break week for the township schools. Our family takes our children out of town, and as I called around to ask friends to read a letter for me, I was not able to attend the meeting. I was met with the challenge that many families were facing similar circumstances, so she got me. Read it. Alternatively, why are we still talking about what to do with the bridge? Many people I spoke with feel as though they came to a meeting, several prior meetings already, with no additional decision-making. Why can't the township just do what was asked overwhelmingly by the residents? I agree. Why do we need to keep meeting? Just rehab the bridge for pedestrian or bike traffic, save us all a lot of money, keep our roads safe, and support the fragile ecosystem in our community. It's the fiscally responsible thing to do, and it is what the community wants. Again, why are you supporting building a new bridge that the community doesn't need or want? We vote you into office, and we can vote you out. Not my word. That's not a Sandy Mills-ism. The other letter, and I'm just going to read a part of this, is from the neighbors on the other side from me, the Gambles, Dorcas and Jeffrey Gamble. Their concern is with the historic nature of the bridge. There have been no accidents at the site as far back as I can remember. I can attest to that. We've lived there 52 years. There's never been an accident in 52 going in 53 years. If the bridge is updated, it will not only destroy the historic setting that it possesses, it will decrease the value of property. More importantly, it would increase the use of the bridge by large trucks and the like, because it would allow a truck route into Kennett Square. That means more traffic through this historic area and the increase of accidents in an already dangerous intersection of Route 7 and Bucktoe Road. This area for many years is used by joggers, walkers, runners, bikers, and even horse riders. If the bridge is widened, none of this could continue. Many families picnic near a nature hike along the Red Clay Creek, which runs under the bridge. These enjoyments could no longer continue if the bridge becomes an access for heavy truck traffic. I've reared, not I, but Dorcas has reared 7 children in her home where we reside, and even now the traffic is getting more and more dangerous. It is polluting the air, and noise levels causes our horses to run in fear. Sounds like a racetrack. Thank you for taking my views into consideration when you make your decision concerning the future of the historic community. Most of the residents moved to this location because of their love of the beauty of Chester County. Don't destroy what has survived for hundreds of years and has inspired the residents of this community to call it home. There are other ways the traffic can get to their planned destinations. Tom and I had a bed and breakfast for 27 years. And we had people from all over the world that came and loved the bucolic nature of our area, by our home and by the bridge. And I think, as I mentioned before, you have this historic element. The DuPonts have done wonderful things in being good stewards of the land and preserving what is historic. And once you lose it, you will never get it back. And I think we need to heed that and think about this. It's a very big decision, and the ramifications are great. Thank you.
Jane Dorchester.
Actually, I can just say it from here. I just wanted to...
Please.
Oh, do you want me to go? Okay.
My name is Jane Dorchester. I am the architectural historian who successfully nominated the Chandler Mill Bridge to the National Register, And I really just put my name on the comment list in case anybody had questions about the history of the bridge or its significance. That's my statement.
I have a question.
Okay.
Listerman, Listerman. The terminology of take back, I just want to clarify. The township never, in any form of municipality, owned that bridge, correct?
Correct. It was built as a county-owned bridge in 1910.
Okay. I would like the record to show that it really should be not take back, but take ownership of. It sounds like we're trying to go back to what we had before, and we're not.
Mm-hmm.
The county uses that term, take back.
Okay, so it's a county term.
Yeah.
And it runs throughout the whole record that I've looked at.
Yeah.
We can change it from this point forward, but it probably will make it used to.
Yeah.
It just needs to be clarified that we never owned it, we're not
Yeah.
taking that ownership. If we're going to use that option.
Right, and that's correct. It has the history is a little complicated because this bridge did replace a township-owned bridge, but this bridge was built and maintained and owned by the county right from the start. I think I have a question.
Yeah, when the bridge was built in 1910, am I correct that it was built as a farm-to-market, along a farm-to-market corridor? Is that correct?
It was built really farm-to-market. Also, this is an industrial corridor, so raw products for industry in Kennett Square, what became Kennett Square. Actually, that's what was Kennett Square. So you're right, generally speaking, it was built as a way of getting raw products, whether it's agricultural or industrial, to the markets and the areas that would take raw products and make something into them.
Okay, so part of its history is the fact that it would be truck traffic and commercial traffic.
It would have, not necessarily at that point in 1910, there would not be no truck traffic. Yeah, sorry. My voice carried, sorry. It's the microphone. In 1910, there really would not have been truck traffic. It would have been more wagon traffic.
Well,
it evolved into truck traffic.
Trucks in 1910.
Some, but not the same.
Okay, but it was used for commercial purposes.
And residential.
Right. So it is both, always has been both, that's part of its history.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
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 Thank you. Peter Gregg?
Play in the third period.
Peter Gregg, live on the south side of the bridge. I just wanted to go on the record saying that it is really nice having the bridge closed the way it is right now. But I do realize, in fairness to everyone that lives around there, that, rehabbing it and getting it open the way it was is probably a pretty appealing alternative. But I would like to say that our first choice, leave it pedestrian bike. Second choice, rehab it the size that it is, keep it the way it was for the last 100 years. Thanks.
Carl Smith?
So I just wanted to say, also for the record, Carl Smith, by the way, Kennett Township resident, and I just wanted to say that I'm also in support of pedestrian and cycle bridge option. I think it would very much benefit the community, and I know a lot of guys who bike over that bridge. Mike Chawner, a guy who organizes a lot of bike races in the area, he uses it a lot. Professional cycling teams like Team Jellyville use it. My dad uses it, who commutes on his bike to work every day. And I use it for recreational purposes a lot, probably twice a week. So that's my opinion, and thank you.
When? You next. I'll call you when you're ready. When you're up next.
We'll just combine the two then. First of all, can anyone look in their papers and see if they have, we had some comments that we brought tonight. We have a lot of paperwork that was put out, and we lost 3 of the comments. If you could find them, if not, we would like to ask permission to submit those after the fact.
You don't need permission. It's open. No problem.
So we can give them to you tomorrow?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. So those were 3 other ones, and if anybody has them mixed in, please let us know. So what I'd like to read is a September 19th, 2011 letter from Kennett Township to the Chester County Commissioners, Farrell, Cozone, and Costello. And the reference is the Chester County Bridge, number 236, Chandler Mill Bridge, adopted policy of rehabilitation first. Dear Commissioners, on September 14th, 2011, the Kennett Township Board of Supervisors adopted a policy of rehabilitation first for the Chandler Mill Road Bridge project. We request that the county make every effort possible to rehabilitate this designated historic bridge in a manner sensitive to the surrounding area prior to consideration of replacement options. Should replacement be shown unavoidable, we would continue to support a 16-foot wide yield sign-controlled 2-way bridge, as was our position after the June 30th, 2008 public meeting where the rehabilitation option was not even presented. We fully realize the engineering, environmental, historic, and aesthetic challenges that a rehabilitation of this bridge must address. However, our first priority is the rehabilitation of the Chandler Mill Road Bridge. Since the bridge is currently closed, we would request your focused attention to the rehabilitation in order to reopen this bridge at the earliest possible date. Kennett Township looks forward to working closely with the county and our community in these efforts. If you have any questions, please call us. And that's signed by Supervisor Alan Falkoff, and this was obviously during an election. But the other thing I'd like to say is that there are still 2 of those supervisors on the board that were part of this letter from the supervisors, and 1 now new one, including yourself. So we'd like to ask that you still honor the rehabilitation first option. And by the way, for the gentleman that asked about the Land Conservancy taking back the bridge, we'd be happy. What's happening now is federal dollars, your tax dollars would be going towards all of this rehab, replacement. What I'd like to say is we'd be happy to take donations for an endowment as well. So we don't have a money tree either. So, but we can all make this work. If there's a will, there's a way. Thank you.
Beverly? Beverly McCausland?
Not here.
But she's one of the ones in the list here.
Did she leave? Okay. And the last one we have is from Emma Eckert, who...
I'm going to read her letter.
Emma couldn't be here tonight. So she says, Dear Kennett Township Supervisors, my name is Emma Eckert. I'm a senior at Kennett High School, and I reside at 301 Oriole Drive in Kennett Square. I'm writing you in favor of the pedestrian option at the Chandler Mill Bridge site and would like to take a minute to explain my rationale. Frankly, I'm not sure why there's such a battle over the historical significance of the Chandler Mill Bridge. Kennett Square itself is a living, breathing historical site. Originally inhabited by the Lenape Native Americans, it is presumed that the name Kennett came from the village of Kennett in Wiltshire, where it is said that it may have been named after the River Kennett in Berkshire, England. The term square coming from the original land grant from William Penn of 1 square mile. It was the site of General Sir William Howe's march at the Battle of the Brandywine during the American Revolution. It is an important part of the Underground Railroad, so Kennett is in fact historic. I live on Chandler Mill Road and have witnessed firsthand what the closing of the bridge has done for the community, quality of life, and in fact the wildlife in the area. Prior to the bridge closing, I couldn't envision a cycling club riding down Chandler Mill Road, a father and young daughter walking in hand down the edge of the road, or two equestrians exercising their horses on the road. Over the past 2 years, I've witnessed all three of those events, and on more than one occasion, I might also add that prior to the closing, you wouldn't have thought about that. It simply wasn't worth the risk. The traffic was fast-moving with many young and inexperienced drivers like myself, navigating narrow roads with multiple blind turns and no bailout areas. Personally, I recall a near miss on a Saturday morning several years ago. We were innocently walking along the road, picking up trash along the creek with my dad and my younger sister when a car traveling too fast came much too close for comfort. I suspect I'm not alone. The Red Clay Creek Conservation Corridor and Chandler Mill Road, along with the lands including the Bucktoe Creek Preserve, is the home to a variety of species of many different animals. Both the environment and its inhabitants are critical to maintaining a balanced ecosystem and quality of life for everyone in the area. For example, Pennsylvania, and in fact Chester County, receives a good part of our driving duck migration from the Prairie Pothole region and Great Lakes region. The Prairie Pothole region extends well up into northern Canada. Mallards, teal, and puddle ducks all make that trip annually. Ducks Unlimited reports that wetlands are among the most productive ecosystems on the planet. They are invaluable not only to waterfowl and scores of wildlife species, but also to the very quality of life on Earth. They also report that we lose 100 acres of wetlands every 8 minutes in this country. Wetlands and grasslands are critical to waterfowl habitat, are used for recreation, improve flood storage, improve groundwater recharge, water quality, fish habitat, and biodiversity. Grasslands are critical waterfowl and mammal nesting habitat, and they rely on healthy grasslands for nutrition and shelter. Grasslands store carbon, reducing the impact of greenhouse gases, which won't be the case if they're killed off by an increase in road and air pollution. For those of you who aren't conservationists, I would refer to a JFK quote given during a commencement address at American University, where he was referring to an arms race, but there may be natural extensions here. He said, "We all inhabit the same planet, breathe the same air, dream of a better life for our kids, and are all mortal." I'm not sure we can have much of an impact on the global scene when we go to war with who and for what reason, but I do know that one thing that you can do for your children is to fight for a better life for them, for their children and their children's children. You have two choices in front of you that are quite clear. You can leave a legacy of sprawl of a mismanaged environment solely as a matter of convenience, or you can choose the alternative: higher property values, a better quality of life, and a lasting legacy for your children. I don't know how this will turn out, but I know one thing: you'll have to live with and through the consequences of your action. I believe it was Churchill that said, "You can count on the Americans to get it right after they have exhausted all other options." Let's get it right the first time. Open the bridge to pedestrians only.
Thank you, Emma, in abstention. Is John Schuch here? Did he just sign this so that we have email?
He had to leave.
I'm sorry?
He had to leave.
Okay. Okay. So that takes care of the list of statements. I'm going to open up the comments next. But I want to call everybody's attention. We were scheduled to go to 9 o'clock. It's now after 9. Your patience and your indulgences have been greatly appreciated. I'll go as long as anybody wants to go.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
I don't think it's necessary. Richard Gott, Chester County Press. GAW? Yeah. I just have a couple questions for Scott. First, where are the other supervisors?
Yeah. Mike is had to leave town. He's visiting family. And I don't know where Bob is. He hasn't told me where he's going.
Fine. The second and last question, Scudder, is this. We've heard from some several township residents We saw a really very fact-filled information presentation by the TLC group from Southern Chester County. Ultimately, who makes this decision? Where is the next step, and when do you anticipate that next step happening? Give us the future, if you will. What's next in line? Thank you.
With all due respect, I'd like to be able to do that, but I'm probably not so omnipotent in the view. The fact is that, as I understand it, the other two supervisors have already made up their minds about what they're doing. But they have said that they would reconsider. So that's the reason why I wanted to make sure that everybody had an opportunity that wanted to be heard to be heard.
Do you wish to tell what their feeling and their opinion is for the record?
That's the reason why we have a court reporter here taking down everything that's being said, word for word.
Right.
And that's the reason, yeah, word for word. And it'll be transcribed, and it'll be a
well, but what I guess the question is,
and in addition,
right.
We're, as I said at the beginning, as obvious as back, we're also making a videotape of this so that anybody that wants to read it or see it will be able to.
Okay, so for those
in its totality.
So for those people who don't know, Mr. Elling's stand on this and Mr. Hammaker's stand on this, would you be willing to share that with the people who are not privy or are not cognizant of that stand and what they want to do? What their feeling is on this matter.
Would I?
Yes.
I would have a difficult time being able to say what either one of them think on this subject. I would not want to do that because it would be inappropriate for me to do that, and it would just be inappropriate. They have told me very, very specifically. I'm trying to understand what they want. The subject came up in one of our, was it a workshop? It was a public meeting. And there was a concern about what the status of it was. I think it related to the 106. And I said that I was concerned and thought we should go further with it because there was a lot of discussion at the 106. And as I said earlier tonight, there was a lot of conversation. Each side was talking to a different wall. And so I was concerned about that, and Mike said, if you want to open it up again, you certainly can. As I look through the record, it seems like even though there has been one position, Gwen presented one that's only 2 years old, 3 years old. I read one that was older yet than that, where they were supportive, along with Alan Falkoff, of going forward with preserving the bridge. And yet, the most recent input that I have seen suggests that they have taken a different position. That what they said was it was too expensive to insure. I didn't understand that. That's the reason why I wanted the insurance man here to explain exactly what that meant. And the liability issue that was involved. Now, I'm not convinced that it's a terribly serious problem based on what I've heard tonight. But I'm, again, not in Mike's mind, I'm not in Bob's mind. I do not know how they are looking at it. And they bring a lot more years to the subject than I have. So I'm trying to catch up with them, and with the grace of all those that are here and others that aren't, I'm beginning to understand the larger picture. And that's what I was looking to do.
After hearing people speak for 3 hours, and really, I thought, very nice presentations, has this changed your mind at all, or has it strengthened your viewpoint on this?
Well, you're asking me how I come down on it, is what you're asking.
Yes.
I've always been in favor of keeping Chandler Mill Road the road that it is, and trying to preserve the bridge as the bridge that it is. that has always made sense to me in everything I've been able to see about it. The difficulty is all the other things that Bob Johnson has brought out to us, that it's in terribly, terribly rough condition. As Bill Shelton pointed out, that it's obviously full of lead paint. And the pictures that I've seen in these various reports, where if you go underneath it, you see that the rust is forming stalactites coming down, and it describes in great detail what is happening. So it's a very serious condition from what I can read in that. And Liechtenstein doesn't deny all that. He just says, or they say, that it can be managed in a more effective way. So there's, as somebody asked, can we get an updated report? Well, maybe that's something that we should do. I wrote down a note that we need to see about going further with that in order to be able to get a much better. It was not fair to me, to Bob, to say, Bob, can you give me a ballpark price to do the work? He said the American League or the National League. I always think it was more the Little League. Whatever it was.
You're in the major leagues with that.
It was trying to get a handle on that without first having gotten in there and reviewed it hands-on, literally, was not a fair question to him. But we need to do that so that we can make that judgment. As I pointed out to Gwen earlier, when we checked with the county was not on the record about it, whatever that means, but they seem to say, their position was that they would probably go along with giving us the bridge, but it would be as is. Now that's different from what has come out in the past, according to Gwen. But if that's where they are now, that's where they are now, because this whole thing continually moves. Everything is shifting around. So the answer is, Albert gave us a different proposal, which I don't fully understand. It's new and it's full of creativity, and it maybe has some aspects to it that we can deal with. So what I'm looking for is lots of input. The creative ideas come through that process of mixing the ideas together and saying, oh, and then there's enlightenment and we sort of solve something. And not just take our one standard position, but be open to all the possibilities. That's where I'm trying to be. And that's what I'm going to try to bring together in the next period of time. How quickly the others are going to want to shift with me on that is up to them. But y'all come out to the regular board meetings and be a part of it, because that's the way government, local government works. And they have shown, Bob and Mike have shown some sensitivity to the concerns of the community. And so if we're there talking about it, I mean, I'll get it on the agenda, but I need help in going through the depth of it. Does that answer your question?
Sure does. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Gwen?
Can we ask them to follow up on that? For the as-is, but that's completely new. They've never asked any other township to take it back as is. And according to our engineer, they could do federal, PennDOT, county funding, and then they give it back. Could you please get that in writing? I mean, I dare say I really don't want it in writing, because that would be prohibitive to anybody, any entity that would think to take back the bridge, if it has to be taken back as is. I mean, that's a death knell for the bridge. So if you could please clarify that from the county and let everyone know.
I believe that is something that has to be negotiated. And I don't feel like I can go and ask the county to give me their bottom line without me giving them a bottom line. And I ain't got no authority to give them a bottom line. So when the time comes to negotiate this, then we'll negotiate it. But I'm just telling you when we asked them what their current position was, this is what they gave us in response.
Verbally?
Yeah, off the record. They
Orally,
make,
off the record, not in an email, nothing written anywhere?
Correct.
On the phone?
Excuse me, Mr. Stevens, it was mentioned in the 106 hearing.
I'm sorry, Albert.
It was mentioned in the 106 hearing by the county engineer that it was as is. So that should be in the comments somewhere, just for your information.
Thank you.
We're going to go another hour.
We'll get the next.
Take a break. Do you think we're going to be another hour?
Well, let me just ask. Because we're at the point where we're taking comments. And Ms. DeShield, I cut her off early on because she had a comment that she wanted to make. And so I want her to have a chance. But as I said, I'm willing to stay, and this poor gentleman, this break.
I need a break. We're going to be done in 15 minutes.
But I need to know how far everybody else wants to go. Do you want to keep on going? If people are saying yes. We appreciate the thank you.
We'll have another opportunity to.
Thanks, Richard. Thank you. Margot, I'm sorry. Don't go away. I'll call you. I would do this anytime that people want to get together and talk about this. But there was not a great strong reception in favor of doing this with the other supervisors. So whether they would agree to do it and agree to show up is something that we would have to ask them to do in a public meeting. I'm sorry? Well, okay, so you're saying come to the regular work session. The work session starts at 6 and goes to 7 o'clock once a month. We can do that. No public meetings, we can do it then. We won't get a whole lot of people speaking. All right, so let's take a 5-minute break, and then are we all going to... All right, you give first call.
No,
Just my Margot, M-A-R-G-O-T, Taylor. And my statement is, the numbers that we're seeing up there all refer to 2007, these reports in terms of numbers for quantifying the cost for repair or rehab. So my request is if we're going to revisit whether it's pedestrian, whether it's pedestrian with 1 lane, or whether it's 2 lane, that we get current 2013 numbers that are looking at these scenarios so that we have the real information to make a decision on. So that's my comment.
Okay. Bob, can I put you on the spot for a second?
Sure. Now we're in the night game and we're in the National League City. Off the record, I explained to you where that came from in a past life.
National Bohemian to get us...
No, we don't need that. It's Valentine beer here.
Myself.
Reggie Ashburn and Bill White.
Can you give... Is this something that your firm can do, is to go in and take a look at the bridge and give us an estimate of what it would cost to rehab it in one of 2 ways, either as a walking, a pedestrian cycling bridge, or as a one-way, or not one-way, a single-lane bridge that is commensurate with what was originally put together. Is that so? Can we get such a bid?
I normally don't refuse work, but in this case, what I'd suggest to do is go back to the county and ask them. They have more particulars on how the bridge, if it would be repaired for the criteria you just mentioned, what would be the parameters. We don't have those. We would be guessing at them. As I said, I don't know how many beams, I don't know the deck, all kinds of those components we don't have because we're not part of the design. And those portions of the design for the deck, the superstructure, the abutments, and the foundations are dependent upon the design, which we're not doing. So I think it would be time better spent contacting back the county to see if, I believe, their engineering firm, JMT, may have done that already or could provide those details, and then we could at least be able to provide you with budget numbers. If that makes, if you followed what I just said.
So, to repeat it back to you, I get the specifics from them, and you give me the price to do the work.
We could do that, and I would definitely ask the county to see if any of the above was previously completed recently by their engineers. Because if they have done any type of preliminary engineering, they usually will do a preliminary budget to go along with it. I won't say it's commonplace, but I would kind of suspect that they would have.
I was going to also suggest that the supervisors meet with the commissioners, because I don't know when that's ever really been done. I'll do that in a large meeting.
There's a follow-up. Bob Listerman?
Bob Listerman?
Yeah, follow-up to Margo, at least just said, it'd be nice, and what I was also approached, it'd be nice to have another meeting like this, but when we do have all the facts. I think these two meetings have been good, but they haven't gone anywhere because not having facts, such as you're seeking. So I would say that maybe we're a couple months or whatever it takes to get all the facts, and then that way everyone will have an even playing field to have comments on. And quite frankly, I think if this ends up being a township-owned bridge, I'm going to recommend we put it out for referendum, because I don't know if all the residents are going to be well served by the group here that is close to the bridge, as I am, and I use Chandler Mill a lot, and now I'm using Bucktoe to go up to Sharp, to go to Giant, like everybody else. So the thing is that I think we just don't have enough information to make any decision, and I think the way you deliberately presented the supervisor's opinion you did was wonderful, because you can't think in their heads, and so many things have changed since 2007, 2011. Who knows? The county might be saying, we don't have any money for it anymore. Maybe time's gone that they could even look at it that way. I don't know. So I just like to have another meeting like this with information that we can make decisions on.
Well, thank you for your kind thoughts. I have to say that it resonates with me about the referendum, because as I thought about it, the issues are so involved. And if you take Bob's National League first game from $100,000 to $1 million for various different parts of it, that's asking the township to take on a significant burden. If we have to do it, as Gwen points out, it becomes a very difficult game if we have to do all of the work ourselves. So it may be that there needs to be some other alternatives to save the bridge, going along with Albert's suggestion, by saving the bridge by doing something creative and unusual.
Mm-hmm.
But that still leaves us with a dilemma of how do we pull the pieces together, and what is the impact on Round Hill, and the difficulty on the community having to go around as they've been doing. Is it 4 minutes average? Is it 2 minutes? Is it 7 minutes? Doesn't sound like much, but if every day you do it 2 or 3 times, and then you have to have an ambulance come whipping through too, it becomes more and more complicated. But does that deny from the community its ability to preserve its heritage? Does it lose something by looking for the quick and the dirty rather than preserving the natural and the special? So I mean, these are all questions that I'm not sure we're going to be able to sit down and talk around the table and come to a final resolution. It may have to be a referendum, and that's a harsh way to finish the game, it seems to me. We got to find a better way.
Yeah, and no one's talked about the new garden proposed development for 41, that will naturally increase. If the bridge is open to vehicle traffic, that will naturally increase. So I was hoping that any studies that are done could be using whatever information they can get from that traffic study, how it might impact Kaolin Road, Chandler Mill, if it's open to vehicles, Bucktoe, Sharp, all those, because people are going to come straight south through Kennett Township to get to that, whatever they're going to have there as far as shopping. But it's a huge development that's on the table, controversial in its own right, but eventually something will probably go in there, and I'm sure it's going to impact Chandler Mill Road.
Or Bucktoe.
Or Bucktoe.
And skip Chandler Mill, you still have the traffic.
And Sharp and Kaolin, all.
I'd like to add something to that in the perspective, and I think Roger can probably speak to the best of that. We're talking about one part of the township, and Bob has now opened it up, looking at really what we should be doing is all the township roads. And I know that within the safety committee they've identified the primary circulators, the collector roads, and the secondary roads. So if a understanding of the whole network, which ones are going to be moving, the main moving of the traffic through, which ones are moving the minor, those decisions then help govern and regulate where and how expansion improvements on the road occur. Because I know that Roger and I were standing on Chandler Mill Road, and the red clay is pounding on one side of it, and it's going to keep working, and we're going to lose a whole lane. So, is that the road that's always to be lighter volume? And is there other choices to take up the volume? And I just, kind of looking at the bigger picture instead of just the one spot might be the route to go. And I'd love to have, the safety committee and, the township roadmasters' viewpoints on that.
We are in the process working with the EAC. We're on Marshall's Bridge Road right now with the stream problem. We got 3 spots on Bucktoe we are addressing. It isn't just Chandler Mill Road. We do address the whole township all the time.
Yeah, and that should be brought into this conversation is what I'm saying, Roger.
Hold on. What was your name again?
I'm Roger Lyle, L-Y-S-L-E.
L-Y-S-L-E.
Roadmaster for the township.
Sorry, thank you, sir. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and just what I'm saying is that's the perspective that needs to be brought in. Is not just that, certain issues, but the bigger, the chiefs brought up the issue at the Chandler, the bridge right there on Hillendale. There are lots of issues. And then, the mall that's going to come along someday.
We have the widening of Route 1 coming. They're all going to bump the traffic on Hillendale. It's a big picture to a lot of us. And you can't come in on one corner of it.
Colored maps, they make great things.
Yes, ma'am.
Crystal Crampton, C-R-Y-S-T-A.
C-O.
I can't spell my own name.
Go ahead, try it again.
Crampton, C-R-A-M-P-T-O-N.
Yeah.
Crystal without an H.
Without an H.
My question is, it seems I've been coming to all these meetings. Why can't the county and the township get together with the public and not have like a free-for-all or anything like that, but have all the points together? Everybody get together, talk about, okay, this is 2013, this is where we need to go. These are some of our options. It seems like everybody's talking against each other, and nothing's being done. The way we're just talking tonight, it seems like another 20 years we're going to be at another meeting, talking about the bridge, and it's going to fall down, like you said, with lead paint and all that. Why can't the county and the township, with key people, have a meeting? I'm not understanding it.
We've had lots of public meetings over the years.
So it is a public meeting. I mean, we came to the last one,
County was there.
and you guys weren't there, but county was there. You were here, but.
Supervisors were at meetings.
I'm not understanding. It seems like we're going back and forth, and I know it has a lot to do with money and all.
Well, Lisa made the suggestion that the supervisors and the commissioners sit down and talk about this in a closed session. And that makes sense.
Because we don't even know what, like Scudder said earlier, what the county just told us as of Friday. So it's different from what Gwen said the county's been saying for 7 years. So I think the supervisors need to understand what the county's even willing to do.
Right, they all need to get together. Like, when that happens, will we be aware of it and actually be able to kind of participate? Or is that because it's closed and that's it? Like,
I don't think the county's going, we invited them tonight.
Right.
So I think that if they're going to get to anything, they need to meet together.
They had some issues with Passover.
I can't hear you.
The county and state directly, I talked to some of them, had some issues with Passover. Tonight is the first night of Seder.
Yeah. The person who I deal with in PennDOT on a lot is Passover tonight, so I did know that.
Yeah. Well, I think that we would have to do that informally and privately, but keeping everybody alive on what we're doing, that's what I've committed myself to doing, so.
So like if you guys hear from Obama when you take the bridge, like I've been petitioning, so like if you hear from the president, would they keep it open? I mean, you guys are laughing, but I'm serious. I know Joe Biden, I mean, I've been telling him about this bridge, so I'm hoping one of them will come here. Hey, Gwen will tell you, I mean, I hoped on a lot of things, you know, I'm just wondering, because I mean, I'm concerned
I wish
because.
you every best luck.
I'm
Make
concerned
it
because,
be
like
so.
I told you, we have up to a cemetery, and it's historical, so if Chandler Mill's historical and they take that away, what's them not taking away another historical site? You know, I'm afraid to, you know, kind of repeat, like, okay, nobody wants to take care of this, get rid of it. They're building houses all around there, and Mr. Brokaw, he can even tell you, I mean, when I put my mind to it, we can get some stuff done. So I'm just wondering, you guys close the meeting, will we know about it?
I will keep you advised of it. That's the reason why I was looking for the emails, so we could do that. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I'd just like to say for the record that we've had a very discouraging thing happen this evening. Not only did the comments that we had on the table disappear, but 4 or 5 pages of petitions that have been signed are gone. They were sitting on the table out there. Maybe people thought they could take them. So they're now gone, and the people that went around and got all those signatures, which was asking the Kennett Township to do everything in their power to rehab, have now disappeared. And we looked everywhere. So they were on the table. They're gone.
No, I'm sorry.
You know, can you tell me that name of your engineer? His name came up a couple of times.
Ron Denadai,
Yes.
Denadiai.
Okay. One more time, just so I have it again.
DE, capital N, ADAI.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I knew I would get it from you. I knew I'd never find it. Thank you.
And the proposal about Hillendale, we proposed that this past summer, along with using the money that would be saved if you don't demolish and replace for improvements on Keolin and for the Hillendale Bridge. So I'm glad that, you know, Chief McCarthy brought it up again. They dismissed it as him, so you can try it again for the county.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments that they'd like to make?
Yeah.
Can we ask one thing?
Pretty
Can you
good.
also find out, when you have dueling engineering reports, like in attorneys, we have mediators that can come in and mediate, or who does that if you have the feasibility report that was done by JMT that's also under contract with PennDOT, there is a conflict that came up in the 106. And then the Liechtenstein 2007, we want to get that updated. Who would mediate? Is there an engineering? No, for engineering, if you have dueling engineering reports.
3 supervisors.
Well, the bridge is owned by the county. JMT works for the county.
Right.
The previous report, which was done, was also for the county. The information I read was from the county. I don't, and if hopefully I'm not, don't have a wrong understanding, I don't believe the township has ever commissioned a bridge engineering study report for this bridge.
Actually, inadvertently they did, because back when we got the Liechtenstein, it was done for the purpose of a take-back by Kennett Township, to find out what the cost.
Who did the...
The consortium paid for it, if you will, but we were told that the township needed to see a Liechtenstein. It's right in the first paragraph.
And so that's even older than the Liechtenstein report.
I know, that is the Liechtenstein report I'm referring to in 2007. It was done to give the township an idea of the cost to rehabilitate.
No, that's our report, the safety. So what you're telling me, the Liechtenstein report was done by,
Here it is. Okay, that's prepared by the, help you understand, the township is considering assuming ownership of the structure after rehabilitation of the bridge by the county. Based on, and that's why this was the idea to have, why we even asked to have it rehabbed.
okay.
I'll give you a copy, I have extra.
No, I see one here. This is the same report you asked me about early in the evening.
Right, you said that you didn't do
No,
it, here is one that you did.
No, this is a speed study, operational analysis, geometric review. This was all traffic. That I believe was part of what was requested by the township, Steve Fromick, somewhere along the line.
We have extra, we can sign if anybody wants one.
Yeah, anything that would help me, I would appreciate it. Just in case, no, thank you. Just in case I need any of this stuff, thank you.
Right. Anything else from anybody? You've all been incredibly patient, and my God, you ate almost all the cookies. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I think we probably, I'm not going to try to wrap this up. We've sort of wrapped it up already on the fly. I do want to say that if anybody has anything they want to add, feel free to write it, send it in to Lisa so that we can keep it all gathered together. We will keep you apprised of what's going on with the emails that we have, and I'm expecting that we will have more to talk about in a finite time. But keep your thoughts open to coming to either the work sessions or the Board of Supervisors, and so that we can get the questions on the table in front of all three supervisors. Okay? So, thank you all very much for your patience and indulgence.